Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk to you about oil and its role in global politics and history. We all come into contact with oil on a daily basis, whether it's through drinking water from plastic bottles, wearing clothes, or riding in gasoline-powered taxis. Oil refining has an impact on our lives both directly and indirectly. Dubai is a city that rose to prominence following the oil boom and is now a popular tourist destination. Oil-rich countries have a significant economic impact on global politics, which they sometimes exploit. Oil is the most important news product, and its price, whether rising or falling, affects the dollar and euro exchange rates. Let's first go over the key points on the world map in order to understand how people generally develop relations with oil. Oil spontaneously burst to the surface on modern Iraqi territory. Previously was used primarily by the inhabitants of Mesopotamia to construct buildings and seal ship hulls. Oil was unfamiliar to Europeans at the time. They only knew that the people of the Middle East used oil as a medical remedy. By the Middle Ages, Arabs and Persians had discovered that oil could be used to make bombs and began throwing grenades at those whom they considered enemies in the East. Oil was declared Sultan's resource, regardless of where it was discovered. The strangest use for oil was discovered by Indian tribes in North America, who decided that oil was a wonderful cult element. Before the industrial age of oil, this is what it looked like: medicine, weapons, and ritual elements. People knew about oil many centuries ago, but they didn't have the technology. Let us begin with a brief overview of the world in the 9th century. Oil was not widely used or understood at the time. Oil's only known property was that it burned well. Torches and candles were the primary sources of light inside homes, and whale fat served as the primary source of energy for the lamps. Whale fishing was a serious industry because it provided all of the world's illumination. However, as Europe entered the industrial age, more and more light was required. Whales in the North Atlantic were nearly extinct by the mid-19th century, thanks to the development of a harpoon gun that killed them twice as effectively. This was a true genocide against whales. However, with the depletion of whale fat, humanity faced a problem. How would they light their houses and structures? A solution was required, and it was discovered by Abraham Vesna, a Canadian geologist. Vesna attempted to distill Canadian asphalt into a liquid form. The outcome was revolutionary. It burned cleanly and could be used to fill street lamps and other lighting fixtures. Kerosene was the name given to the liquid, and humanity fell in love with it. The invention of kerosene signaled the beginning of the oil industry. Modern oil wells began to appear in the United States, the Russian Empire, and Austria-Hungary, and production in places such as Pennsylvania was increasing. The industry began to expand. As the industry grew, so did oil refining, and what we now call the oil economy emerged. John Rockefeller was one of the first leaders in this industry. At the age of 20, Rockefeller served in the Army of the North and South in the United States during the Civil War. He supplied everything from grain to rope to clothing. And at the age of 31, he established the behemoth corporation Standard Oil. He established a logistics market conquest monopoly and began purchasing small transportation corporations. After buying a small one, he moved on to a medium one, then a large one, and eventually the entire industry reacted under him. His corporation was worth $1.4 billion. However, the government of the United States decided to split Standard Oil into 34 separate companies due to its immense wealth and power. Exxon and Chevron are two of these companies. The Sherman Act was enacted to promote fair competition and prevent monopolies. John Rockefeller, who had a monopoly in the kerosene industry and the oil industry, was one of the first victims of this law. Oil played a crucial role in World War I and II. The discovery of oil prompted the creation of new weapons, such as tanks and aeroplanes. The French relied heavily on gasoline cars to transport troops and supplies to the front, allowing them to defend Paris against German invasion. Germany lacked access to oil, which put them at a disadvantage during the war. In their conquest of Ethiopia, the Italian fascist regime led by Mussolini used chemical weapons fueled by oil. Hitler learned from this, and during World War II, the German army relied heavily on synthetic fuel produced by the German chemical industry. The United States was the primary driver of growth in the automobile industry in the 1940s, producing 26 million cars in 1945 and 40 million in just 5 years. With the growth of this industry, so did the demand for oil, and the presence of oil products became critical for survival in the West. The main oil reserves were discovered in the Middle East, specifically in Saudi Arabia. Europe was in post-war ruins and facing an energy crisis, while Britain abandoned its colonies. The Arab world, led by Saudi Arabia, opposed European oil sponsorship and the appearance of Israel, threatening to keep it under siege until it died of starvation. Israel found itself with few allies, and Saudi Arabia could not be pressured due to their oil supply. With control of the Suez Canal, Egypt became a major player in the Middle East, and the Soviet Union emerged as an unlikely ally for Israel. The Suez Canal was under French and British jurisdiction, and the Egyptian government sought to control and benefit from it. Prime Minister Eden declared that Britain would fight for oil in the Middle East, but the country was already in difficult economic circumstances, and the British were concerned that the Soviet Union would begin attacking Britain's ally in the Middle East. This prompted the decision to launch an attack on Egypt, which retaliated by clogging several ships with rubble and cement made from old beer bottles. This resulted in the fifth such navigation in the Suez Canal and eventually brought the war to a halt, making travel through the Suez Canal impossible. The economic impact of this crisis was significant, with estimates of a $10 billion loss. This made it clear that the situation was not a game and that immediate action was required. Europe sought assistance from the United States, but America refused. The situation in the United States was also dire, with an increasing reliance on Middle Eastern oil imports and a lack of domestic production. This resulted in the lifting of oil restrictions and an increase in imports, which led to the 1973 Yom Kippur War and the imposition of an oil embargo on the United States. As a result, the status quo was completely destroyed, with oil prices skyrocketing and ordinary Americans struggling to afford gasoline for their cars. The Suez Canal crisis clearly had a significant impact on the economy of England and the rest of Europe, and was a major contributor to the current reliance on Middle Eastern oil imports. The 1970s oil crisis had a significant impact on the global economy, especially in the United States and Europe. Arab countries' embargo caused prices to skyrocket, causing citizens to panic. The crisis had a significant impact on Japan's economy as well, and the Soviet Union attempted to exploit the situation by offering assistance in exchange for a change in territorial claims. The Arab countries' use of oil as a weapon altered the post-war world and resulted in a significant increase in the price of oil. Despite the lifting of the embargo, prices never returned to pre-crisis levels. Many people believe that Dubai is the oil industry's capital, but only 11% of the population truly understands the economy's structure. These oil dollars and their associated benefits primarily benefit indigenous people, while others, such as low and middle-wage export workers from Russia, Western Europe, and the United States, are left behind. It is important to note, however, that the people of Dubai use their oil money wisely, investing in airport infrastructure, tourism, and the opening and construction of restaurants. Dubai is now more than just an oil capital. It is also a financial district and a popular tourist destination. It is true that many people believe that the oil age has come to an end, with the rise of electric vehicles and alternative energy sources. However, something tells us that the oil age will last a long time, and that ending the history of oil is impossible. It is important to remember that oil has been critical to the advancement of many industries, including healthcare, medicine, the food industry, transportation, and others. To summarize, while the oil age may not last forever, it has played an important role in the development and progress of the world. Thank you for your interest and your attention. Please leave a like and comment on what subject you think the next video should cover. Goodbye.